$15 billion. When you talk to any regular person on the street that is living paycheck to paycheck, which is more than half of the population in this country, we should ask, what has the Democratic Party done for your ass lately? They
Not the
are
Janet Jackson
spending
line. Hit it with the
$30
Janet.
billion to support, their government, like Ukraine. $30 billion. This is crazy, because it's not only funding war abroad, it's funding war in our neighborhoods. And this the lesser of two evil narrative has gotten old. We've been doing this. This has kind of been like, this is the most important elections of our time. Every year, every damn year is the same thing. And we need to know, and I always like the Albert Einstein quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different outcomes. What we haven't done in the last 60, 70 years is organize ourselves ideologically, politically, as a force to take power. And that has been intentionally done. And so to your students, or folks that say, like, we have to, that is having a deficient mentality. That is having assuming the narrative of there is not enough. There is more than enough. The problem with this country is not that it doesn't produce enough. Not that it doesn't have enough wealth, is that it's mismanaged, misappropriated, and at the hands of a very small group of people who don't care about society, that don't care about poor and working class people, which are the majority of people in this country, the majority of people in the world. And so if we don't talk about power and how to build that power, we will remain negotiating our exploitation. And now if we want to continue to negotiate our exploitation, we could continue to say, out of fear, we're going to vote Democrat. Out of fear, we're not going to engage in this type of politics. But none of the people that we put on our walls, that we repost every time, that we say are our heroes, did shit out of fear. They did it out of courage, and they did it out of necessity, and they did it urgently because it was necessary. And so we need to kind of get a little bit more bold in how we address our people and how we encourage people to be bold too. We cannot act based on fear. That's what the capitalist state wants us to do. And if we continue to do that, we're going to continue to get crumbs. We don't want a seat at the table. We want the whole house because we've built it.
So let me jump in with a question. So like within the American context, so there's been other countries which have seized, let's say, some form of power through an electoral process. For the most part, radicals here have suggested that that's impossible, right? You're not going to be able to vote capital out of power. And I don't assume that you guys are social democrats, right? We're not assuming you're DSA and all that kind of stuff. So then what is behind the run for the presidency, as in, how does this help in terms of some of the things that you've even laid out? How does this help the working class, the everyday people, seize power by participating in the electoral process, considering what a lot of us think, particularly about the American electoral process, where third parties are, knocked off of positions to ballot, or they're not given the attention, or they're sidelined, and so much money is given into sort of Tweedledee and Tweedledum of the Democrats and the Republicans. How does running for president and vice president build power for the working class?
Well, I think, Claudia, you can jump into, of course. We know that electoral politics is not it. Every 4 years or every 2 years, that's not going to build the kind of organizations that we need that are actually going to transform society, right? We know that those things, because we've studied history and we've seen how social movements are built. And so we need to build that independent political working class organization with our own program, that we need to be able to contest that the right wing, this narrative that we've heard our entire lives, of course, as long as there's a right wing candidate, then we all have to get in line and support the Democrats. No matter what, they are responsible for mass incarceration. They are responsible for endless wars. They're responsible for depriving poor women of access to abortion, like through the Hyde Amendment, like Joe Biden, whatever it is, because they take our people for granted. And like Claudia was saying, we're always going to be just asking for some scraps. Why should they be able to decide in the first place? Why should it even be up to them? We're never going to get there until we build those kinds of political organizations like the Black Panther Party, like the Young Lords, like so many socialist organizations that existed throughout years. Those are the ways that you actually change society. It's by getting in the fight. And so we're saying that right now, whether we like electoral politics or not, people are paying attention to it. And we are not going to allow people like Joe Biden to just put us back to sleep. That man is putting himself to sleep, putting the whole, maybe sleepwalking us into a nuclear war. And so we're fighting for the consciousness of our people, of all those young girls who are woke and depressed, who feel like there's nothing else going on. We say, no, join a political organization, let's fight. And it's not just about this or that election, but we need to build the kinds of organizations where we are actually building power, where we are actually taking over things, where we're fighting. But you can't go from zero to nothing by just willing it into existence. You have to walk with people through the path. The path of petitioning means you got to get out there and talk to people, and you got to defend yourself, and you have to, talk about why something else, and deal with the despair and the sadness and the challenges that people are living through, and be able to talk about something to bring people in. It means you got to get organized. You got to get your little task going. You got to organize an event at your school. You got to talk to people. We want to get that energy. We want to put that into something that will last. That's not just about this election cycle, but that's about joining a political organization where we can keep building power in our communities to actually take over them.
I wanted to jump in and just say, like, we have been conditioned to think about instant gratification, and that serves capitalism. If you think about food, just think about food. Instant food is never good for you. It has a whole bunch of stuff that you should not be eating. And I say that because it's the same thing with the capitalist mentality, that whatever you do, you need to see instant results. That's not true to anything in life. You need to be able to build things for them to be sustainable, for them to be able to have the strength from the roots. And this is something that capitalists understand really well. They just don't want us to understand it really well. Because every time we actually wake up to understand the power of organizing, they find a way of crushing it, be it through their legal system, be it through their military and police force. It is important for us not to think about today or tomorrow alone, but to think about what are we doing today for 20 years ahead, because that's how capitalists think. That's how people who do business think. And the people who do business, those big corporations, are the ones that are running this country. And that's not to say, again, that we shouldn't have a short-term, a mid-term, and long-term plan, but all plan goes to shit if we don't have a real assessment of the situation. And we're confronting a very sophisticated infrastructure, a very sophisticated, structure that has many years of thinking and planning on how they will keep the working class people beneath their boots. And so we have to do more strategic planning. We need to be able to do more tactical moves. This process of us engaging in elections is part of a larger strategy. If we only see it as something, if we see the election itself as a strategy, then we fail.